Hi, Achim Schloff from InnerSpace Explorers, together with Juan again. And we received a few emails and comments that there is a video somewhere on YouTube where somebody refers to, is the Longhose good for recreational use? And it looked like there's a few misconceptions out there. I didn't see the video. I do not specifically know what the thing is here, but basically the request was, can you make a video on the use of the Longhose in recreational diving, and is there a benefit, is there a disadvantage, is it dangerous, can you compare it to a regular setup? And that's what we're going to do today. So here is a regular setup with a PCD and a classical regulator setup with a normal length primary regulator and an octopus rig. Don't bother too much about the console or whatever. I mean, just fumble that together, because normally I don't have something like that flying around in my base. And here's what I normally use for my recreational diving as the opposite. So let's talk a little bit about benefits and disadvantages of the two systems, and why we use what we use.
Sure. I think the first thing that we should kind of point out to is actually the wing. The BCD in this case, buoyancy device, whatever you want to call it. So I think a good starting point would be to discuss the wing or the buoyancy compensation device. No?
Especially as the question with the Longhose normally comes with what do you use it, so we see it as a unit. So the way, I mean, it wouldn't make too much sense to use a Longhose setup in a regular BCD and the other way around.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff when it comes to our kind of education is that we like these things to work as a unit, like you said. No? So, I mean, going back to the discussion of the gas, I mean, you can see that gas can go everywhere here. I mean, it can go to the forward pockets, it can go to the sides, it can go to the top. So you have a lot of places where that gas can shift. And this basically is kind of a typical example of instability. You know, you have a lot of students who like, for example, strapping a weight here, right, on top of the tank, where of course when you look at it from the top side and you have a weight here, it's so far from your center mass that if you turn this way, that weight will actually pull you here, and then all your gas will go here, and so you're diving flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop. Another thing about this kind of configuration, of course, is the lack of a crotch strap, right? So typically what happens there is when you're on the surface, or even if you're in an unlikely upright position, the air here will actually try to move up. So everything tries to go up. Air always tends to go up to the surface. So whatever your position is, you're going to be struggling with this. Even if it's configured for you, it could ride up high up to your armpits so that you could actually feel it lifting. Whereas, for example, in your case,
you don't have that. Another thing that I see, just when you move it here, you can see that you can move that heavily, but the tank stays stable. While this is one solid unit, so that's a connection between the diver and the tank. While this is just makes the tank roll on your back, which can be very, very uncomfortable, especially for somebody not super comfortable in the water, like the person that goes like on a 2-week vacation once a year, but not diving on a regular base.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now going back to
so now when you see the counterpart, so here's the crotch strap that Juan just referred to, which gives you the stability. So if I'm on the surface and have this inflated, obviously it wants to go up, but it puts me on top as well. So it's not I'm here because I have weight somewhere like on a belt, and this thing's going up and I'm going down, and I have it around my ears, but this just stays to my body because I'm not just hanging in there, but I'm in a harness. And due to the solid backplate here, which a lot of people think is uncomfortable, which it is not at all, you can see if I move this, the tank just goes with me, whilst when I go this, it can actually roll. And so that's basically the connection point between the diver and the system.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, that crotch strap, some people actually dive the backplate and the wing and remove the crotch strap, not seeing the use for it, right? However, on the surface, you'll really see that big discrepancy between a wing that has a crotch strap and one that doesn't. You know, a wing system that doesn't have a crotch strap will ride up like a halo, and you'll get these people complaining that they feel like they're being pushed with a pillow, that happens.
There's all these semi-wings that I don't know about manufacturers, but there's some that have like a soft harness.
Sure.
And then but the bladder is wing style, but they also don't have that feature. Or you can buy it like an add-on, and most people don't do. And then you have exactly the same effect like with the jacket. So the crotch strap is an essential part to keep that like a cage, like a harness that's really on your body. Yeah.
I mean, we can talk a lot about these, even the particular things like these plastic buckles and so on and so forth. But I think you have another video that discusses that.
Yeah, actually, you will find links in the description to a few videos of that channel that point out these things more specifically and that go way more into detail. There is one how to set up a single rig, how to weight a single rig, and so on and so forth. So if you want to get more of this, follow the links in the description, and that will give you a deeper insight. Like as I just said, the weighting. I mean, normally you do this either with pockets here that you can remove, or you have a weight belt, whilst here the weight's like exactly on your center of gravity. So it's these two pockets, and there's a video about this in particular. Yeah. So yeah, let's go to the regulator, I would say, because that's what the initial idea was all about.
Fantastic. No? I mean, like with regular recreational setups, you have this. No, you have a lot of these, and you see this when people are diving. You see the hoses coming out, jutting out, and then you have these, and it's clearly places where they can be easily entangled. They can get themselves into situations like that, and then of course, without having to mention this. Like this is typically, it falls off an attachment point and then it's dragging in the water, it falls into corals and it hits the corals, It can be a dangerous point of failure for both your life support system, and of course it's not environmentally friendly as well.
Yeah. So whilst here you have the hose lengths all cut down to the perfect length, so you actually don't see these loops going around everywhere, which a lot of people will argue this is recreational diving, not penetrating, etc., etc. But it doesn't hurt. It's a streamlined configuration. Just simple things like you have it on the back and you go on that liverboard, just getting entangled in the pipe from the compressor and here and there. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's just a nice, slick, streamlined system. And I mean, being streamlined underwater is one of the things we're really looking forward to. And so you can see that somebody thought about that. That just goes directly down here and is clipped in, right? This is exactly the right length to follow that corrugated hose. This is exactly made so it fits around my neck and it doesn't make such a big loop. And even a recreational diver will swim through that door in that wreck or something like that. And that is way easier and less dangerous in regards of cutting your hose or getting yourself entangled somewhere than in the other configuration.
Yeah. It's good enough that you mentioned that now, because this is one of the points of contention here.
Yeah.
Our primary and our backup, right? What can you say about that?
The recently somebody commented on you remember, again, links in the description, there was this donation video and somebody was obviously not into this entire system and not into this channel, but he commented like, why for God's sake do you endanger yourself by taking that regulator out of your mouth? And I was like, endanger myself? If I endanger myself just taking a regulator out of my mouth, I mean, then I should probably not dive at all. I mean, there's nothing dangerous, and that's the first exercise you do with a new scuba diver when you introduce him to the gear, right? I mean, how do you take this in and out? I mean, it's nothing dangerous with that, especially if I have my necklace sitting here where I can basically take it even without my hands. And the prime idea of this is that you keep your primary regulator and the person out of gas is going for an octopus that's somewhere in this triangular, so he can take him himself. Well, fine if he finds it. The problem that I always have is this thing might hang there for an extended period of time, weeks, months, years. It's just not in use, right?
Yes.
I mean, you may argue, yeah, but I service my regulator and I flush it and this and that. Still, it's there during the dive. You don't know if that works. There can be gravel in it, sea life, God knows what, the cockroach from the storage era. The person that needs that is out of gas. So the last thing you want to have, also thinking you might be the victim, you go for an air source, you are out of gas, you need to breathe in really urgent and you go to a gas source that you don't know is working, that might have something inside. If you ever have that experience inhaling from a regulator and it gets you water or something that shouldn't be in there, that's the most uncomfortable thing that you can have. And what do you do then?
Yeah.
Most probably,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's the idea of the Longhose. You donate what you breathe. So first of all, I know it's the right gas. Talking about recreational divers, single tank, that's not an issue. If you continue to more advanced training where you have probably different gases with you, that also becomes an issue. I know I'm breathing it, it's good for me, it's the right depth, the right gas. I can donate that. But here, for sure, I know I have a working regulator because I'm breathing from it. So, and I inhale, I have time, right? So if I take that breath, I have at least a minute to act in a controlled manner before instinct or whatever kicks in. So I can give that to you and I know you can breathe. So now I can go to my necklace, and on top my necklace is much less prone to get filled with gravel or dirt or whatever because it's hanging here. It's not somewhere there. I mean, that's the more or less the optimal solution. I mean, how often do you see divers where the octopus is together with the SPG dangling in the coral somewhere?
Yeah, a lot actually. It's one most neglected piece of equipment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like,
because you don't need it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, whereas when we have, for example, this kind of setup with our pre-dive safety check as well, we actually do go through the motions of checking if both are working in the water. So I mean, it comes as a system,
sequence,
right? So I mean, like when you think about this, of course there is like these air checks, and you can check if your regulators are working. But typically, most other agencies will teach you just to check if you can purge it and hear gas from it. Maybe you'll try your regulator, your primary, but then the secondary doesn't come into play, typically.
It's the secondary, actually the word says it, it's the secondary.
Yeah, it's the secondary.
It's
so that becomes
not your primary focus,
yeah, that becomes very interesting because in this kind of configuration, your secondary is actually your personal backup, right? And that's for you. That's for your safety.
Right. So let's come to this misconception of the long hose wrapped around your neck. I hear that frequently. Oh, this is dangerous. You cannot do this because you wrap this around your neck. In fact, you don't. I mean, it's not that you take this piece of equipment and wrap it a couple of times around your neck and then hang yourself. It's completely not the case. I actually just get that back a little bit, and so I can give a bit better of a demonstration. If you may hold that for a second. The thing is that actually you just form, this goes down on my right side and then comes up in front of me, and I form this loop, and the last thing before I descend, after I checked it, because there's this check where I just display to my body, hey, my long hose is free because this is for you. I want you to know that I can donate this. It's not underneath some other gear. So now I form this loop and I put that on top of everything. That's all. I'm not wrapping anything around my neck, right? So I have this and I donate it like that. And again, there is this video, link is in the description, where we talk about, actually our fellow instructor Paul and myself talk on the beach in Mallorca about the donation and what is important, that the mouthpiece is delivered to that person that's out of gas, that I maintain eye contact and all of this. So if you want to check that out, follow that link. And then you also see in the second part of it how we do that in the water, and there's nothing like complicated or whatever. I just get that off, boom, right? And if I figure out, oh, the person doesn't need gas, I don't have to figure out how to get that octopus stored somewhere. I just get it back. I can do that all day long. I mean, there's nothing on it, and my secondary is here. I mean, just probably want to get that. So obviously, if I have my hood and everything on, that comes even a little bit closer, so it's more or less in that position, right? I mean, I can just simply grab that with my mouth, right? And so I have my gas sources close together, and it's very unlikely they get contaminated or whatever, just in the position that they have. All right. I don't know. Anything you want to add on that?
Nothing really. I think you pretty much covered it all.
All right.
I think it's good.
So I hope that clarifies the question. If somebody knows what this video is all about, drop me a link. I would love to see it, so I know what caused this issue. And yeah, if you have questions, comments, please do this. If you like it, give us thumbs up. And if you want to discuss with us and become part of the family, so to speak, check out the Patreon site. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.